Welcome to the WagerTalk Podcast for the week ending June 17th. We've got a big show tonight, guys. We've got Marc Lawrence will be stopping by to talk about the release of something everybody needs every football season. That is the Playbook Football Preview magazine. We're going to introduce a new segment this week called the Handicapper's Corner, where we are going to be taking a topic each week, either a handicapping theory or a betting strategy to help you guys become a more profitable sports investor. Dave Cokin and Ralph Michaels join me in studio tonight as we will preview 3 of the biggest baseball games this weekend. And then, of course, at the end of the show, best bets. And Mark Seidel is behind the controls, making sure everything runs smoothly, which we definitely need. And I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, so let's get this party started.
Houston won, so Mark's smiling, so everything's a little easier today behind the counter.
Yeah, Mark, our big Houston Astro resident fan, and Mike Garrett Cole pitched well again last night. Of course, it's nice to get a 10-0 lead in the third inning, too. That makes things very
By the way,
easy.
Very quickly, did you see, shame on Oakland. I know the stadium's a dump. They had less than 10,000 last night to see Garrett Cole and the world champion Houston Astros. Come on, you got to be kidding.
I said the only excuse I could give them was everybody hung over from the
parade?
Yeah, the day before. So that's the only thing I could say. You got the world champions there, and Garrett Cole. I didn't see what they got today with Verlander pitching, but it was a day game, so can't be that great. All right, guys, let's bring in Marc Lawrence, and excited to bring in Marc. You can find him on Twitter, very easy, at Marc Lawrence, and that's Marc with an M-A-R-C. And Marc, thanks for joining the show with us here, and I want to tell our listeners they can always follow you also. Check out your website, playbook.com. Marc, you've been a busy guy here the last couple months. You got the daily grind of handicapping baseball and NBA, but this time of the year is busy for you. Tell our listeners what you were up to.
Well, just about getting ready for the football season here, Marco, just like everybody else is, and enjoying a little bit of free time now that the magazine has hit the newsstands. It's a labor of love. We started at the end of the Super Bowl and headed to the printers at the end of May, so that's good news. This is our 26th anniversary edition of the magazine, so we've got it down pat pretty much. I think we've got it right about where we want it right now these days.
You know what's cool about it, too, is the text is really interesting. It's just fascinating reading as you get into some of the technical stuff. And the angles that you publish, this is a common theme. They're not kind of this goofy stuff that's pulled from outer space. There's always rationale involved, and I think that's really helpful for somebody who likes to follow those trends.
Well, that's a real important piece of handicapping, Dave, as you well know, is, there are trends, and trends can be like gumballs that come out of a machine. They can be different colors. There could be 6 yellow gumballs in a row and then 4 yellow or green ones. But the bottom line is it doesn't mean anything if it isn't logical, if it doesn't make sense. And that's what we try to do. We try to parse together a lot of angles, a lot of theories, and a lot of thoughts that are well thought out and make a lot of sense. So a lot of logical handicapping is involved in the magazine.
Marc, when people look at your magazine, and the college teams each have one page, the pro teams each have 2. What's your favorite part of the magazine, or what do you find most useful? The best and worst team trends, the ATS scorecard, the coaches' quarter, the quarterly report, the division data. It's just loaded with information.
Well, what I like, Ralph, is basically the team previews, basically, if no other reason, because I wrote them. So I'm a little bit prejudiced that way, but I think there's a lot of insight that goes into our team previews, a lot of what we learned in the offseason, the changes, the chemistry about the team, what to look for. I think if a person just takes the time and reads those, they can get themselves pretty well acquainted with what to expect for the football season. The other thing that I like, that I hear from a lot of listeners or a lot of readers, is the way it's laid out and designed. It's all real easy to find, team by team. It's all alphabetical. You can start with Air Force and go to Wyoming alphabetically that way, and it's real easy to find the material and a nice, easy read. So I like the way it's laid out.
Yeah, for a guy like me, Mark, when a team changes conference, it takes me 3 years to get it in my head what conference they're in now, and I'm looking through the conferences. Where the hell did they go? But I'll tell you one of the things that I like, Mark. I'm a situational handicapper, a good part of my handicapping, and when I'm handicapping a game for this year and I'm looking at it, everybody has last year's score and what the line was and everything, but I'm a guy that likes to look and say, okay, when these two teams played last year, what was the game before it, and what was the game after it? Was it a letdown spot, a look-ahead spot? And I love your playbook is on my desk all the time, the entire football season. I just flip it open, and I love going. You can go back the last 10 years looking at the logs, but it's easy to see that situation of if there was anything from the year before.
I like it, too, that way as well, Marco, especially the stat logs. I know the stat logs are kind of like a daily racing form of the way a horse's race went. This is the way the college and the pro football team's game played out, what they came off of, what they had ahead, what they did in yards and turnovers, and there's a true read of those stats as well. We call them, if you're looking at the stats, if you take the turnovers all out, what the result of the game would have been if there weren't turnovers, kind of like the fielding independent pitching ratings that way with the stat log. So a little bit of everything for everybody, whether you like stats or angles or trends. It's kind of all in the magazine.
So here's an interesting question, I think, because we have kind of a unique situation. Obviously a lot of people are going to be betting legally for the first time, but they were already betting, and it's not like it's going to be a brand new experience for them. But there are going to be a lot of first-time bettors in states where, it's becoming legal now, and that they didn't use bookies before that for some reason. So I would expect you're going to have a lot of first-time visitors to the website and also readers of the magazine. For somebody like that who is new to betting football, any recommendations as to kind of what they should look for first as a starting point in terms of their handicapping in conjunction with what's in the magazine?
Well, I would, I'd use the rule, the KISS rule. Keep it simple. Keep it, don't go too deep into what you're doing here. Look at the schedules first and foremost to see what the teams have ahead, what they're looking at, whether it's a soft or an easy schedule here. Mark will hit on the past history results. I think those are really key, important results, knowing whether or not certain games will be laced with revenge, how meaningful those games can be, and also maybe looking at the stats, the statistical review of what they did last year to find out if the team played true to the record. You'll find teams that win a lot of games, what I call inside out in phony fashion here. Certain teams do that consistently year in and year out. They do it with smoke and mirrors. So just to kind of keep it simple here, find your team, look at their schedule, look at their past results, and move forward from there.
That's also a really great little piece of advice as far as in-season betting is concerned. If you're looking at Saturday results, I know you do talk about this a lot, and it's actually a really good angle, is that inside-out angle where you might have Team A that won a game where they were outgained by 220 yards, and you might having them play Team B, which did the opposite, where they lost the stats and happened to win the game, or they won the game and lost the stats. That's a key element in terms of garnering value the next week.
That's a great point, Dave, and the reason I think it is that if you look inside of every team's projection in the magazine, we point a point spread power play, and is projecting a team in what I think is a desirable role that they'll be interested in being up for that particular game. You guys, I'm going to make you privy to the fact that the key ingredient in those point spread power plays are largely teams that lost games but won the yards the previous year, where they felt that they pushed the other team around, something went wrong, whether it was turnovers, bad breaks, whatever else, but they know that they out-yarded the team. It's motivation for the next year, so you'll find the majority of those point spread power plays to be plays that are keyed off of inside-out results from the previous year.
Let me just add that, we're talking about inside out and winning the stat battles. My favorite part is something people may not even realize in your magazine. When you look at the 2017 stat logs for the teams last year, that little red check mark, the first thing you see means they won that stat battle. And at a glance, when you see a team that has very few check marks and perhaps won those 5 or 6 games, certainly a team you look to fade for the upcoming season.
That's a great point as well, Ralph. I love those check marks because it's a real simple, easy read. One team in particular, I'm going to throw one out there just because you mentioned it. Go look at Temple's stat logs from last year. They were a football team that had a first-year coach in Jeff Collins, who came over as a highly touted defensive coordinator from Florida. They got off to a slow start. They were out-yarded their first 5 football games, but what do you find in their stat logs looking down? 8 straight check marks in a row. That's how they closed out the football season here. They got on the same page with Jeff Collins. That's going to make them a good, I think, a team to watch and put on your play-on list this football season.
That's a good segue to my next part of the book that I like also, Mark, is right in the upper corner. You've got the coach and how many years he's been there. And, let's face it, college football, there's coaching changes all the time. Everybody knows the big schools, the high marquee names and people changing. But seeing these schools, the smaller schools, and you might have missed a head coaching change, you've got it there. And the other nice thing is, a lot of people, they overreact that first year with a big-name coach, but you got to remember, the first year in with that coach, he's still working with last year's groceries, so to speak. I always like to make the reference to Bill Parcells that he said he wants to buy the groceries. It takes a year, 2 years to 3 years before you really see that new coach's scheme working and have the players that he wants. And, man, I love seeing, that trajectory where a coach, you go back and look at those 3, he's been there for 2 years, this is year 3, and you saw that improvement from year 1 to year 2. Year 3, I got the buy sign, buddy.
I'm with you, Marco, on that page here. It's usually the best year for a coach that who's implemented a new scheme, a new program, brought a new playbook to the university, and it's usually year 3 that you'll find improvement from that team if there's improvement to be had. It's usually because his recruits that he's gone out in the first 2 years, in year 3, they're going to be meaningful. They're going to matter to that team. So year 3 is critical. It's crucial, and I do like that coaching box up on top. And I got to throw this out there, too. Kudos to Ralph. He really helped us out. Ralph's a great guy. If ever you need anything to find anything anywhere on the internet, Ralph Michaels is the guy to go to. And he helped us out tremendously this year with filling in some of these offensive linemen and returning starters that we were missing here. He was a key go-to guy, and Ralph, I got to congratulate you. Great job.
Mark, thank you. And let me just continue on Marco's thought. While you have the coaching box in the top right with the returning starters, you also have the last 4 years of returning starters, straight-up ATS numbers, home favorite breakdowns, and yardage breakdowns. But, one thing I want to tell our listeners is the number of returning starters does not translate into the number of wins. If you're a Kansas team and you have 17 returning starters or 18 or 19 like they do this year, well, you have 19 kids that didn't play very well that are coming back that aren't going to play very well again. But what you look for and what I look for using your magazine are teams that have a huge up or down from their average returning starters for the previous few years. And you could see a team, you have Alabama and Ohio State that have 10 or 11 starters back. Well, they have 10 or 11 starters back every year because they have so many people going to the NFL. Those 11 starters are better than more teams. And you have other teams that return a lot of starters because they play 4 years and they don't play well and no one gets drafted. So your breakdown of the 4-year starters is something I find invaluable to not look at returning starters for 1 year, but look how it compares to the previous years and make your determination from that.
That's another strong point you mentioned there, Ralph, looking at seeing what they did the previous 4 years, and the quarterbacks as well. This will be the first year that Urban Meyer will be at Ohio State and will not have a returning starting quarterback coming back. He's benefited from that previously with the Buckeyes here. It served him real well, but that won't be the case this year. So we'll see whether or not he can make that. He can adapt to that situation here. And one other thought here also, you talk about using those stats about sometimes bad teams with bad defenses bringing a lot of people back. It really doesn't matter because they're just a bad defense. But in a case where a team really improved the previous season statistically, at least on defense, and they bring in the majority of their starters back, that's highly beneficial. You'll find that to be the case this year with Texas Tech, who improved 110 yards a game defensively last year, and they're bringing 10 of those starters back this football season. So you got that combined with the fact that Cliff Kingsbury's probably on the hot seat right now at Texas Tech. I can look for maybe an improved effort by by the Red Raiders this season.
Yeah, that goes to the point that you made the reference before, Mark, with the horse racing, reading the racing form, looking at those last 4 or 5 games of the season from the previous year is a good telltale of what's going to head into this year with them bringing those starters back. And, there are a ton of magazines out there on the market that are preview magazines. There isn't one out there that is as well done as yours and as easy to use as yours. Every year that you've been doing it, Mark, it's been sitting on my desk, and kudos to the excellence that you do. I know it's a labor of love. The industry, everything's on the internet anymore. I'm old school. I like to have something in my hand that I can actually, walk around with and look at. I know you can take your iPad and everything everywhere, but nothing beats your magazine, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that, and it comes is really meaningful to me because all three of you guys I highly respect your work and what you do, and just the fact that you guys like the magazine means a lot to me. And we lay the whole thing out basically. I like to always do things to walk in the shoe of the customer or the reader in this case to see what it is. If I'm the customer, I'm the reader. What it is I would like this to look like, and I want to make it as easy to find information and as quickly as I possibly can. So that's the whole purpose of the design and the layout.
Mark, obviously, for those in Vegas that are familiar with Gamblers Book Club, your magazine's there. It's flying off the shelves. I was in there a couple days ago. They can grab it now. But if they're not in Vegas, how can they get your magazine? And also, I just want to point out, Mark does one of the best newsletters every week called The Playbook as well, a write-up on every college and every pro game. Tell our listeners again how to get both the magazine and more information on the newsletter.
Well, it's all available, Ralph, online at playbook.com, where you can go in and download the weekly football newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter, or order the magazine. If you're not in Vegas, you're listening to the podcast outside of Las Vegas, you can't get to the Gamblers Book Club, or it's on sale at a lot of Barnes & Noble stores all across the country, many newsstands. You can do everything online at playbook.com, order the magazine, and we'll ship it out to you by priority mail.
Mark, one other thing I almost forgot about. Every year you run the Wise Guy contest. Tell our listeners about the Wise Guy contest. It's a contest I've been in for a long time. I was lucky enough to get a couple wins in there, and it's a good contest if you can get some of the plays right in the playbook for free.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice contest. What we do is we invite 50 of the best leading handicappers around the country. Everybody competes. It's a $10,000 kitty and a person there, and they'll submit 2 plays a week, a double play and a single play, and one time a year a triple play. We may change that a little bit here. Ralph threw a couple of ideas at me this year that I really like his thoughts, so we may tinker with that just a little bit this year. But that's all part of what you'll read each week in the Playbook Football newsletter, the Wise Guys contest. It's all available, again, like I say, online at playbook.com.
Mark, I got to ask you, we did a couple of horse racing references, and I know you and I are big horse racing guys. Were you at Gulfstream to watch Justify for the Triple Crown on Saturday?
I was at Gulfstream Saturday. I watched them from my living room at home, though. I'm just the kind of guy that can't make it through a whole day to the track. That, I get there about noon, and I left about 6 o'clock, got home by 6:30, and watched the race in the comforts of my family room there. But it was a good day at the track. Everybody had the big buzz going on, and it was certainly nice to see Justify win the Triple Crown. A little bit of a cushy, soft race for him, and I think it was set up a little bit by his stablemate horse. But nonetheless, he was certainly a story to behold, and it's really nice to see another Triple Crown winner.
Mark, that's the most overrated thing. I mean, yeah, no kidding. It happens in NASCAR too. It's part of the race. If you get, it's just part of the race. It's not cheating. I just don't understand all the angst over this.
This one was pretty blatant, though. You watch the race, and the horse takes a right-hand turn out of the right in the middle of the stretch, and then he comes back to take the other guy out and pin him down the rail. I mean,
that's why they call it. I guess that's why they call it horse racing, right? I don't know.
He's right. You do see a lot of that in NASCAR. The way the drafting and everything like that. But we don't see a lot of it in horse racing that way. And just the opportunity to have a Triple Crown winner was really, really terrific. And he'll be good for the business. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, Marco tells me his 2 dream tracks he has yet to go to is Belmont and Gulfstream. So Saratoga and Gulfstream.
Awesome.
So we're going to pop down this summer, say hello to you, and go to Gulfstream with you. And for those that are fans of you, I know you're going to be in town for the Las Vegas Hilton previews?
Yeah, the
Westgate Hilton. Sorry.
The super contest.
You dated yourself there. By the way, Marco and myself are heading to Del Mar next month, so you can be jealous of us too.
Yeah, but I will be in town the last week of August for the Westgate Superbook seminar, and they're also doing at the Golden Nugget the IFBC seminar as well. Tony Miller is going to host that at the Golden Nugget. That was in Costa Rica last year, so there's 2 events going on that same weekend, and I look forward to catching up with you guys when I'm in town.
And we'll mention this, by the way, especially if you're going to use the Playbook for your handicapping. Why not take a shot with the Golden Nugget contest that's now opening up? This is a really good contest. They've revamped it. Yep. Mark, it's now 7 sides only, no more totals, college and NFL, anything that's on the board. I like that format, and no more bracketing at the end of the year. I mean, they did a great job with the tournament and lowered the price to $1,000. That's going to be a fun event.
I'm going to get in it. I'm making plans to do just that, Dave, when I'm there, to be at the seminar and also to enter into that contest. So it's kind of a nice, purposeful trip for me, if you will. A lot of things going on that particular week, so looking forward to being in town with you guys. So
I'll pin you down now. If you're going to be in that contest, the Golden Nugget sponsors the Friday edition of the Las Vegas Sports Line during football season. Can we get you on one week to talk about your selections of the contest?
Oh, I absolutely love that. For sure. Good. You got my number. Track me down. I'd love to do that.
Thanks, Mark.
If your schedule permits, Mark, when you're in town, if you want to come in and do videos with us for that week, we'd love to have you in studio. I'm pretty proud of our video productions. We do them actually at a TV station, so it's first rate, and I'd love to have you aboard.
Well, if I don't water it down, I'd love to sit in with you guys. I'd like to do that when I'm in town, so I look forward to that.
Yeah, you could make them a lot better, though, if you'd supply a makeup person, because, boy, we sure need one.
Well, I tell you, I was saving it for the end. This might be the oldest collection of people in the business, because we've got Marc Lawrence has been in business since 1975. I've been in it since 1980, and Dave, you're 1981.
Yeah, I still remember the old days in the back of the covered wagon by candlelight with a sarsaparilla next to me. Oh yeah.
You know what they say, guys? You know where the old people live in a neighborhood. I like to walk my neighborhood every morning. It's part of my exercise regimen. When I walk in the neighborhood, I can tell where the old people live. It's just simply by looking in the driveways. You find the newspapers in the driveways.
Right.
Now, I'll tell you, we've praised this playbook this entire segment. Before I let you go, the only thing about the playbook that does piss me off, Mark, is I got to look at your face. You have not aged in 15 years, and it's not just using an old photo. Okay, this guy. Every time I see him, I go, "What is your secret?"
Is that a man crush, Marco?
It is. I want to know the secret. He hasn't lost any hair, and he hasn't aged a day. Dave, tell me.
What are you looking at me for?
Well, that's all in the genes, guys. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. I can guarantee you that. But also, it's sure nice to reuse that same photo 10 and 15 years ago.
All right, Mark. Hey, it was a pleasure talking with you. You are simply one of the nicest guys in the industry. Nobody, this is a very competitive industry. Let's face it. And most people don't, cross-promote anybody. But I'll tell you what. I've known you for a long time, and I'm just going to give you a 30-second story, and you probably don't even remember it, but it's something that's always stuck with me, Mark, and it's just the kind of person that you are. When I was first getting in this business and we were doing some stuff, and I was doing some stuff with Junior and that, and we did some mailings, some cross-promotion on advertising, and I said to you, Mark, I says, we're doing this, back and forth free, with each other. I said, I'm getting the best of this. You're much bigger than I am. And you simply answered to me, you know what, someday it might be the other way. And most people are not that way. It's all me. And you have always been that way. And I've respected you from day one. And I just appreciate you being on. Now it does sound like a man crush, but I appreciate everything you've done in this industry. And you're somebody to look up to. Definitely the highest integrity.
Well, real kind words, Marco. I really deeply appreciate that. And I do remember the days back with Sports Unlimited you were talking about out of Pittsburgh. So those are the good times. And, in fact, I was talking with Junior. I think Junior's going to come in with me to Vegas as well. And he said to say hey to you guys. And he says, especially Marco, he says, he's my guy.
Yeah, and ask Junior about our first meeting where we ended up at. My buddy we had a nice dinner, Junior and I, and then we ended up at my buddy's strip club. And
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, it was right in Sharon, PA.
Oh, what a
which
shock, Marco.
Was right in the halfway point between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. We met in Sharon for dinner, and then we went up there, and we got treated pretty good.
I'd have been stunned if I had learned anything else.
Mark, we obviously don't know how to keep on topic, but thank you very much.
All right, guys. Hey, great segment. And, Mark, would love to have you back on during the football season to preview a couple weekends with us.
Hey, I look forward to it, guys, and look forward to seeing when I get into Vegas.
All right. Take care.
All right. Be good. Thanks.
All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to do our new segment, Handicapper's Corner. That is up next.
It's Manic Monday, and that means every pick at WagerTalk.com is just $9. Get a play in any sport valued at up to $30 for just $9 each and every Monday at WagerTalk.com.
Welcome back to the WagerTalk Podcast. We're going to head to segment 2, and we're going to do a new segment, guys, with the legislation. We've now got another state came on board today, guys. New Jersey took bets today for the first time. 2 casinos opened up so far. Well, a casino and a racetrack.
Right.
Monmouth Park was the opener. They were first, and then the Borgata. Borgata's run by the MGM, right. So you've got MGM is going to be a big player. Right. In this. I mean, they've got casinos everywhere, right? So they're set.
William Hill is running Monmouth.
William Hill, that's going to be the other big player, obviously, with their nationwide, worldwide. And so we're going to have more and more states. Now that you got these 2, what do you put the money on West Virginia next?
Yes, I think West Virginia is probably going to be next. And one thing you'll find, though, is that the states that use the Nevada properties, or at least those who have a major force in Nevada, like William Hill, their infrastructure will be in place a lot more quickly, and they will be better run, certainly at the outset, than any states that try to do it themselves. We're going to have a lot of Nevada personnel running these books. I know in Atlantic City and at Monmouth, you've got people from here that are going back there, at least temporarily, to run the books. That's what you need. Because if you don't know, and it's just a warning to these states who think, well, we can't lose. If you don't have people in charge who understand risk management, right, you can get in trouble doing this. It's not a sure thing that you make money being the bookmaker. Okay? So I would hope that all these states follow the lead of the ones that have started already, and have some Nevada people who really know the business in place. Yeah, and Monmouth Park, for example. I mean, Monmouth Park is in a business that's guaranteed money because they're getting they're getting a percentage of the handle. Doesn't matter, who wins or loses. Right. Yes. Right. So this is totally different for them. And but when you have an organization like William Hill, they know what they're doing, they've got people everywhere. But all the books here do. They do. And now you're looking at, with all of these different, we talked about, more and more people are going to be betting. We know everybody, bets some, but more people are going to bet more often. And what we want to do with this segment is we want to make these people smarter and give them a better chance at it being profitable. For some people, this is going to be, second nature. They already know all this stuff. But for other people, they're not. And, Dave, this is one of the most fundamental things. I mean, if you don't have sound money management, you can have more winners than losers and not come out on the right side of things. And I'm going to start with you. When you look at it, you can be that good handicapper, but if you don't have the sound money management, you're going to come out on the losing end. What are some tips that you would give a beginner in starting betting? Don't ever think that you've got a sure thing is first and foremost. There aren't any. And that's why, I never liked the game of the whatever model. And I know we still do some of these, which we don't do games of the year. Right. I personally, and I got to make sure that I get this information to Johnny, I don't want to do any more games of myself. I'm not saying this for anybody else. I don't want to do any more games of the week or games of the month for a very simple reason. The customers think they're too good. Okay, this is a bad way to bet. Okay, and even if we assign a percentage, or else it's a 4% wager or something like that, They don't bet 4% of their bankroll. The reality is they don't. They bet a lot more than that. That to me is a way to go broke. Even if I'm confident my players are going to win,
right?
But they don't all win. Okay, and betting too much of a percentage of your bankroll on any one game is a really bad idea. I will tell you this right off the bat. Now, we don't do this, and I think it's important to note this. Nobody has, we've got a 1-star play on this game and a 3-star on this game and a 10-star on that game. If you see anybody doing that, it's my personal opinion, you should stay as far away as possible, because anybody who's recommending that you bet, I assume 10 stars means 10% of your bankroll, as opposed to a 1 or a 3.
Right.
If anybody who recommends betting 10% of your bankroll, or these 50,000 unit bombs or any of that garbage, they're going to kill you. Okay, they're going to break you, because nobody who actually bets does that. That's the key. Is if you want to know if a handicapper out there is an actual bettor or not, kind of see the way they rate their games. Okay, I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but there's this one. He's very well known on Twitter. Okay, this guy will have like 50 units of action in one night on a regular basis. He's not betting. Okay, or his unit is like $1. Because you can't bet, if you're a substantial bettor, you can't bet 50 units on one night. You can't do it. You can bet. You can if your unit is small enough, but nobody's unit is that small.
Coming from the North Coast days and the Phil Steele days, and, it coincides directly with what WagerTalk does. We had 3, 4, and 5 stars at North Coast, and we have 3, 4, and 5% for WagerTalk. So what does that mean? It means, number one, if you're betting, you should have a bankroll that is just for that purpose. If you're going to talk about a 3, 4, and 5% bankroll and bet it, it means this. You have $10,000 put away just for betting sports. A 3% play is $300, a 4% for is $500, and a 5% play is $500. No play, no matter the title, is worth more than that 5% risk if you're going to play that money management system. And basically what it means is this. If you go 2-1 by using that 3, 4, and 5% system, you're going to at least win 6 units and you're going to lose 5.5 units. But at least you're going to show a profit going 2-1. If you ever go 2-1 and don't show a profit, you are clearly betting wrong with the amount of units you have.
Yeah, and when we started WagerTalk, I went with that percentage because, everybody knows I came from someplace else, and I didn't believe in the way they rated the games because they're rating single, double, triple. Okay, well, no professional bettor is betting 3 times what they play on a regular play. And then, every play is a 3 because nobody wants to buy a 1.
Because nobody's going to buy the 1, right?
Yeah, and it's ridiculous, and it's insulting to the bettors and the customers. There's most professional bettors that I talk to do one of 2 things. They either do the percentage of bankroll, and I think if somebody's doing a percentage of bankroll, it's more of the low volume guys.
That's me.
That's me.
I'm not a splasher.
Right. The guys that play where they feel if they have any edge, that 53 and a half, they want as many of those as they possibly can.
And they're not playing 3 or 4 or 5%.
They're playing flat right, unit flat on every play.
Or they're utilizing a Kelly criterion, something along those lines.
And with those, and I say, if you want to be a high-volume guy, I highly recommend the flat unit betting. Now, the question is, how much do you need, or what should your unit be? And different people have different thoughts on it. I'll see what you guys say. I have mine.
It depends how much money you've got.
Yeah, it should be 1 or 2% of your bank, 1% of your bankroll. Probably if you're going to splash 10 or 15 games out, you have to be able to withstand a losing streak and not go broke.
Right.
If for you to say, I'm going to play 1% of my bankroll, that's fine. But if you can't withstand, let's say, losing 15 or 20 units in a week because you had the worst week, right, and not have anything to bet with, then you've defeated the purpose of betting for a season.
That's why, look, for myself, my own personal wagering, I won't bet 5% of my bankroll in a game. I know we have 5% plays. I'm not gonna lie. I don't bet 5%. I'm basically generally 2 to 3%. Depending on the sport, some sports I'm better than others, and that also factors into it. For me, an NFL wager is like 2%. College football, I'll bet 3%. Rarely will I go above that from a unit standpoint, because a lot of my customers bet units, and sometimes I decide that's just the way I'm going to do it as well at the start of a season. Basically, everything's a one-unit play. I might go 1.5x. That's it. Okay, there are no. Just avoid gimmicks and avoid that in terms of how you're playing yourself. I would say, realistically, if you are going to be doing this if you're just doing this for recreation, it doesn't matter. You don't just bet your $20 a game or whatever. Have some fun. Bet the parlays. If you're not a serious wager, just don't. You don't have to treat it seriously. But if you are a serious wager, and to me, that's anybody who's betting, I would say more than $200, $200 or more per selection. I think that's the lower end of that. Then you should probably have a starting bankroll of $10,000 that's earmarked just for the gambling. If your bankroll is $4,000 and you're betting $200 on a game, you're betting too much.
I like to use I go to poker, okay? A lot of people, look at it, and whenever you buy in a game, most people buy in for 100 big blinds. If it's a 1-2 game, you're buying in for $200. You want 100 big blinds. If you're flat betting, I think to be safe, that is a good number also to use, because you have 100 units to play with. Because if you're playing a lot of games, and I know, guys, you have to have the disposition to be able to handle swings of a 5 and a 15 day. And come back and fire that next day.
You have to accept that you're going to lose sometimes. You can't. Right. I mean, the biggest mistake it is the single biggest mistake bettors make is they'll have a bad day in the NFL on Sunday, and they just can't stand the idea of paying the bookie on Tuesday.
Yep.
So they try to get it all back on Monday, and it's just a surefire way to lose.
You might be down 4 net units heading into Monday night, and you were betting 1 unit a game. But you play 5 units on Monday night to try to get a profit. So now you just buried yourself if you lose that game for trying to take that risk. Don't take those shots. And what you need to do is this is the best tip that I can give anybody in wagering. Take emotion out of your betting. You have to become a robot. Whether you're playing, if you have a bankroll and you're doing the percentage of bankroll, you follow that. You do your 3%, your 4%, 5%. And remember, if you're doing percentage of bankroll, you're never going to go broke. Your bet sizing will decrease when you're losing, and it will increase when you're winning. That takes it out for you. Now, if you're playing a lot of games, I definitely don't advise doing 3, 4, 5 if you're betting 20 games a day. Right. That's not the way to go. You want to go flat betting. And if you're going flat betting and you've got, using the poker term, 100 big blinds there, so you got 100 unit cushion that you could withstand, which if you lose 100 units flat betting, you probably should not be betting.
You might want to quit.
Yeah. So that's the way you look at it, but you take the emotion out of it. It's an automatic. You know what you're playing. You're not chasing, and it's not. And this is the best one. I get guys telling me this all the time. I got a customer phone guys, the old days, Dave. You give a guy a play from, the Giants, and he's from New York. Well, you might have a 3-star on it, but because you gave a New York guy a play on the Giants, it becomes a 10-star for him because he's betting his hometown team. Take the emotion out of betting.
Marco, both you and Dave talked about Monday nights, and Monday nights were made for bookies with people trying to play catch-up. And my advice is this. Not only do you have Monday Night Football, but Thursday night college football games are huge. You have Tuesday, Wednesday MAC games. And, again, my advice is simply this. Sunday morning, when you're handicapping the NFL, or during the week when you're handicapping the NFL, handicap that Monday night game. If it's one of your plays on Sunday, you can play it on Monday. But if you're handicapping it and it's not one of your top 3 or 4 plays on Sunday, you shouldn't be playing that to play catch-up no matter what. Same thing during the week. If that MAC game on Tuesday would have been one of your top 5, 6, or 7 plays on Saturday, feel free to play it. If not, watch the game, have fun, and that's how gamblers get in trouble playing those TV games midweek.
All right, good stuff, guys. And, hey, to our listeners out there, we want to hear from you. If you've got a particular question or topic you want us to tackle, tweet at us, hit the Wager Talk Twitter account, mine, Dave's, Ralph's. We will cover it in these segments in the coming weeks, and I'm excited about this. With the sports betting, we're going to see the dominoes. I'm telling you, by football season, we're going to see a lot more states jumping on board. West Virginia front runner for the next state, and I don't see Pennsylvania far behind. The states that got in early on the slot machines will be in early on the sports betting.
West Virginia and then Mississippi are the ones that had the legislature in place. That'll be next.
And good stuff, guys. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to preview 3 games for this weekend. We got some great pitching matchups and some big games this weekend. We'll cover that next here on the Wager Talk Podcast.
Every Tuesday, WagerTalk.com offers a best bet selection from its hottest handicapper. It's a great way to introduce yourself to WagerTalk.com with a big best bet winner for just $2 on $2 Tuesday.
Welcome back to the Wager Talk Podcast. Time to check out the weekend baseball action. We have 3 good ones on Friday night. Dave had to step out, and I'll tell you why. If you were a Dave Cokin all-access customer, he is running to get a play up right before it's late, but that's the benefit of being an all-access customer. You're going to get that play, and the minute he loads it, it'll go to your email. You'll get an email notification. So he is on a play tonight, and he had to step out, and we're going to close out the show with Ralph and myself, and let's start Friday night, Ralph. We've got a good one. At St. Louis, we've got the Chicago Cubs with John Lester on the mound, and St. Louis counters with Michael Wacha. Ralph, you look at this one, the Cubs just come off that big series with Milwaukee, and now they got another big series with St. Louis. These are the 3 teams that everybody figures is going to be in that 3-horse race to the finish line this year in the National League Central. But I got to tell you, the Cubs scored 3 runs or less in 5 of their last 6 games, Ralph, including getting shut out in back-to-back games against Milwaukee to finish that. I know you do one of your publications with First Pitch. You do who's hot and who's not. I got to ask you, when you see a team like Chicago that's in that kind of scoring slump, how much do you put that into your handicapping, that current form, good or bad?
Well, we talked about it earlier on Las Vegas Sportsline with Dave Cokin. The Mets are another team. The Mets are batting 133 their last 10 games. I mean, that's unheard of to be that low. So obviously, hitting's contagious. Mark will tell you from the Astros and from the Indians, and when your top of your order's hitting, the middle of the order hits, the bottom of the order hits, and, winning's contagious, hitting's contagious, positive success is contagious. So the Cubs are lucky they have Lester on the mound. His last 8 starts, 5-1 with a 1.63 ERA. But you look at Lester on the road, he is apt to giving up home runs. He's given up 7 home runs in 40 innings, where at home he's only given up 1 home run in 36 innings. Now, for St. Louis, Wacha, he lost the opener. And since that time, he's rattled off 8 straight decisions. The team is 10-1 when he pitches. And at home, just an incredible 5-0 with a 1.85 ERA, and he's got a 2.7 strikeout to walk ratio.
Yeah, you look. I agree with you 100% with Wacha. He's been amazing at home, and in those 8 starts, they're 7-1 in those starts for him at home. He's got the 5-0 record. I look at Lester in his last 2 games, Ralph. He was an absolute beast. He went 7 innings in both of those games, allowing no runs in either of the starts. But here's the thing. Those 2 starts were against Pittsburgh and the Mets. You can't fault that he pitched good, and you can't help who he pitched against. But when a pitcher throws 2 good games like that, I look at who he played against. And right now, as you said, the Mets can't get out of their own way. They can't score any runs. And the Pirates are in total disarray right now. They're on a losing streak. So I have to downgrade those performances a little bit. You look and see, 14 innings of shutout ball. The guy's just been amazing. But he's playing 2 teams that are not playing well.
Marco, let me just translate that to college football. If Alabama's playing 2 non-conference teams and playing, Mississippi then, and they shut out North Texas and Ohio, you don't think anything of it. So I completely agree. When you're looking at these pitchers and how they perform, who they competed against and the current form of those teams is an absolute necessity.
Yeah, so for this one, Ralph, I look at it, I'm going to lean to St. Louis in this one. The Cubs with the hitting problems right now, Michael Wacha's dominance at home, and I'm going to give you 2 stats here that I like on St. Louis as well. St. Louis, 22-12 in division games this season, and here's one for you. St. Louis, in home games after scoring 3 runs or less 2 straight games over the last 2 seasons, they're 17-3 in their next game.
Marco, I'm going to lean with the under in this. St. Louis has struggled against lefties, hitting only .229, and with the current form of both pitchers, I'm going to look to the under. Your opinion in this game?
St. Louis.
Let's move to Saturday. San Francisco and L.A., one of the most fierce rivalries on the diamond. Madison Bumgarner making his 3rd start after his broken finger. Dodgers a late pitching change. Stripling was supposed to go. They switched him up a day, and now are starting Wood this game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you look at, Alex Wood, he's going here. His last 3 starts, he's not been good. His ERA is 9.75, Ralph, and he's lasted a grand total of 12 innings in those 3 starts. You have a pitcher heading the wrong way form-wise. I can't back him here in a big game like this. I know you've got a lot on Madison Bumgarner. This is a guy that, we know what he's capable of. He hasn't shown that form yet. The first start was good, but then he regressed a little bit in the second start. My only concern with Bumgarner, and we'll hear what you have to say, is the first 2 starts, he hasn't had that domination. He's only had 3 strikeouts in each of the first 2 games. And this is a guy that normally is going to dominate the hitter. So we know he's not in 100% form yet, but he's going to get better.
Well, I'm in agreement with you. It's a pitcher that you're going to be overpaying if you're going to back him at this time. I mean, look, in his last start, he pitched 5.5 innings, and he gave up 4 runs and 6 hits at Miami, another team we talk about where a strength of schedule is not going to get you very high. In this game, I don't want any part of either pitcher. You normally think of San Fran and the LA Dodgers as a low-scoring series, but I'm actually going to look at the over in this, and I just think the number is going to be lower because of current form of both pitchers.
Good stuff. I can't disagree with you there. This is one of those games, Ralph, that I really need to see the results of Friday night. And here's why. Because the Dodgers, they get see what they do on Friday night, and if they have to use some of their key guys in the bullpen on Friday night, that would help you for me, because Wood's probably not going to go deep in this game. If you look at what he's been doing, he hasn't been pitching, past 4 or 5 innings, so you're going to have to bullpen. So look and see if they use the key guys Friday night. That would weaken the Dodgers for Saturday and make me lean to San Francisco.
Completely agree. In fact, Wood, in his last 3 starts, has only gone 11 2/3 innings, allowed 20 hits and 14 runs. Now, he's had some hamstring issues. They said it's getting better, but you're right. If they have to go to the bullpen early Friday, make sure you're checking that out before you wager on this game Saturday.
All right, we're going to go to Sunday, and this one is a good one as far as Philadelphia. They send Aaron Nola to the mound, and he's going to be facing Milwaukee and Chase Anderson. Ralph, Nola's been consistent pitcher all season long. You couldn't ask for anything more. 14 starts this season. He's allowed 3 runs or less in 13 of the 14 starts. His strikeout-to-walk ratio is 90-22. Does his dominance continue here going into Milwaukee on Sunday?
Well, you break down that 90-22, and I'm going to break it down a little further. At home, he's got a 1.86 ERA, 6-0 record. Now, on the road, I mean, he's still 2-2 with a 2.74 ERA, but it's a very manageable when you look at his strikeout-walk ratio, 55-9 at home. 33-15 on the road. So at least you have a chance to get to him on the road. At home, he's been unbeatable. And his last 8 starts, like you said, 1 earned run or less in 6 of those 8 starts. Now, Anderson, on the flip side, while you're saying there might be value playing against Nola, Anderson's a pitcher who started off incredible and has just absolutely faded. his first 6 starts, he had 10 earned runs given up. His last 6 starts, he's given up 22 earned runs. So we have a pitcher regressing as the season's gone. His first starts, he had a dominant fastball. He had a huge strikeout to walk ratio. He has seemed to lose a few miles per hour on his fastball, and teams are really catching up to him, especially the second time around in the lineup.
The only thing, he is coming off his best game of the season, his last outing. He shut out the Cubs, I believe it was on Tuesday night. That was a play that I had.
7 shutout innings, 1 hit against the Cubs. Yeah,
he pitched very well. But here's the thing, Ralph. I'm looking at that one, and he was absolutely brilliant, but he threw 107 pitches in that game. You go back, that was the season high as far as pitches. The previous to that was 95 first week in May. This is a guy that generally throws, 85 pitches to 90 in a game, and now, they stretched him out. He went 107. When a guy normally, and we make a lot of horse racing references because I do look at pitchers just like I look at horses coming in and out of form. You talked about how good he was early, and then he was bad, and then he throws a good one. Normally, I'm going to jump on that guy in the next start because, to me, that's the buy sign. He's ready to go back into form, and I want to get him while the value's there. But I'm concerned about the high pitch count. So I'm going to go a different way with this game, and I'm going to look at the first 5 innings with Philadelphia and Milwaukee. And I think head-to-head, Nola's been consistent all year long. You know what you're going to get from him. We're not sure which Chase Anderson we're going to get. And if that 107 pitches took a little bit off that fastball, he's not going to have that same velocity this start, I want Nola to outpitch Anderson over 5 innings. And to be honest with you, if you're ever betting against Milwaukee, you should be only betting first 5 innings because Milwaukee has one of the better bullpens in baseball. Their ERA is 2.65 for a bullpen. That's outstanding. And if you don't have the lead by 5, you're probably not going to win that game. So I want the pitchers. I don't want to deal with the bullpen. I'll go Philadelphia first 5 in this one.
Anderson, you talked about pitching 106 or 107 pitches last time. Well, in his first game of the season, he pitched 95 pitches, had 6 strikeouts, and pitched a shutout. In his last start, he had 6 strikeouts, pitched a shutout. In his middle 11 starts, he never got to 6 Ks. So when he's pitching the ball and striking out people, he's got a different velocity to him like he did the first game of the season and this past game. I'm going to lean to the under in this game, Marco, and I think Anderson with the buy sign. I'm not worried about the 107 pitches. These are young guys, middle of the season. This isn't April where 100 pitches is going to affect you. And again, the way Nola's pitching, I think I'm going to look to lean with the under here.
All right, good stuff, guys. We're going to take our last break of the night, and when we come back, Ralph and I are going to have best bets for the weekend. That is up next here on the WagerTalk Podcast. Welcome back to the WagerTalk Podcast. It's the time of the show that you wait for. It is the best bets section, but before we get to those best bets, I got a special treat for you guys. We got a special offer this weekend. You want to be a weekend warrior? Pick up 3 days of service. Normally, 3 days of service is $59 at WagerTalk. You pick your favorite capper. You get all of their plays for 3 days. You can do it this week instead of $59. You can get it for $40. That's right, just $40 when you use coupon code podcast40. Podcast40. It's the only place you're going to find that coupon is listening to our podcast. We like you guys listening, and we want to reward you with a little gift. $19 off a 3-day package. It's a good deal because if you have a 5% sometime over the weekend, Ralph, that's $30 right there. You're picking up the rest of the weekend for $10, basically.
$13 a day and change. You can't beat it for 3 days of quality service.
Absolutely. All right, Ralph, we're going to start with you. You've got a best bet on Friday night. You're looking at the Boston Red Sox, Seattle Mariners matchup. And, boy, those Mariners are playing some good baseball. Which way are you heading Friday night?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the way James Paxton is pitching, I'll tell you what. 5-0 with a 1.87 ERA his last 8 starts. Against Boston, he's 2-0 with a 0.39 ERA in 3 starts. And he's the kind of guy that you're looking at. His first 5 starts this year, James Paxton was 1-1 with a 5.61 ERA. So to look where he is now, it's just an amazing progression of the season. You know, on the flip side, you have Boston. Well, Boston always has struggled this season against lefties. They're only hitting .237. And for Porcello, he is certainly in a regression. His first 6 starts, he was 5-0 with a 2.14 ERA. His last 7 starts, 3-3 with a 5.7 ERA. Why does that happen? Well, at home, a 43-8 strikeout walk ratio. On the road, only 37-12. I like Seattle with Paxton. Seattle 13-4 is a home favorite. They'll be a home favorite in this game. Not too big of a one against Boston, but I like the Mariners.
Yeah, good stuff. I can't disagree. Paxton has been amazing, and the only start that he, really gave up any runs, and it was only, I think, 3 or 4, was the game after his no-hitter. I mean, the guy has just been amazing all season. I'm going to go to a game on Friday night. It's big series. You got San Francisco at L.A. You got Derek Holland on the mound for San Francisco, and Ross Stripling will be going for the Dodgers. Now, this is going to be a big price. Looking at the early number, it's minus $1.95. No, I'm not going to give you a $1.95 favorite. We're going to go on the run line here. We're going to go minus the 1.5 runs here, and that's going to give you a couple reasons why. First of all, if I'm going to take a game where I am going to lay the 1.5, I've got to expect that I am going to score at least 5 runs in the game. And I'm looking at the Dodgers here, and their bats have, awoken. You look at what they did. Their last game was a 3-2 game, but prior to that, they scored 12, 7, 3, 7, 8, 9, 5, 10, 12. They're scoring runs, Ralph. And so that's the first part. The second part is they're going against Derek Holland. Derek Holland, he's coming off a good game. He went, didn't give up any runs, only 3 hits. But still, you're not going to get more than 5 innings from Derek Holland. So even if this is a spot where Derek Holland gives you a good 4 or 5 innings and keeps them in the game, why do I want to go against San Francisco? Well, San Francisco played this afternoon in Miami, and it's getaway day. They were supposed to get in there, get that afternoon game, and get away and head back to the West Coast. Well, they basically played almost 2 games today because they went 16 innings. So now you've got a lot of pitchers used, a lot of players. You basically played a doubleheader, have to travel to the West Coast, playing a team that was at home in their last series and had today off. That's a pretty good scheduling spot.
Is that situational handicapping?
That is situational handicapping. You're sharp, buddy. You should do this professionally. And I'm going to go ahead and take the Dodgers minus the 1.5 runs. If this one gets bad, and this is the thing, because you use so many pitchers in that game, if this game happens to get, out of control a little bit early, rather than, bringing a pitcher in or out sooner, because you burned the bullpen the day before and you got your ace going the next day in Baumgartner, sometimes a guy gets to be a sacrificial lamb and might have to go a little longer. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 1.5 with the Dodgers as my best bet. And I want to thank all of our guests this week. Marc Lawrence, just a fun segment with Marc. We had a lot of good stuff, and then, we got off topic there for a little bit at the end. But, it's entertaining stuff. I could talk to Marc all day. Good stuff with the Handicapper's Corner. And as I said in that segment, guys, if you have something you want us to talk about, let us know. We will cover it in those segments. And thank Dave for being in here for the first half of the show. Ralph, as always, thanks for joining me. We got Mark Seidel behind the controls. We don't get any of this on the air if it's not for him, and he runs a tight ship and makes us all sound good. And, of course, our man in Detroit, Johnny Detroit, he is the guy that gets this podcast distributed to all of our outlets. And you can download this on iTunes, subscribe to it on iTunes. You can listen on iHeartRadio as well. Until next week, guys, I'm Marco D'Angelo. Let's cash some tickets. Thanks for joining us here on the Wager Talk Podcast.